Hello, everyone. I'm Harvey Brownstone, and today on our show is a woman with a special gift. She's an internationally renowned psychic medium, animal communicator, and best-selling author. She's able to receive and convey messages from departed loved ones and from living or departed pets. During her sessions, people say that they can feel the presence of their departed loved ones and pets, and they receive guidance and comfort. She provides specific details and evidentiary proof that life goes on after we die. Her name is Mari Cartagenova. Mari, welcome to our show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Harvey. It's such a pleasure to be on with you and to talk about, all things spiritual.
Mari, when and how did you first realize that you had a special gift?
Well, it's interesting because for me, I was born this way because when I was very little, I remember seeing angels and, talking to spirit. And I thought that was a normal thing. I thought that's what all the little kids did. And then at some point I realized that not everybody does that. And I guess some of the kids thought I was kind of the weird kid because I would be the one hugging the trees and talking to people they couldn't see. So it's sort of always been with me. And, I didn't use it all the time. I mean, it's been a part of my life, but I wasn't involved in this community my whole life. I sort of put it away for a little while and then picked it up when I was a little bit older.
Did it ever scare you?
It never did. That's an interesting question. I don't know if anyone's asked me that before. Not really, because it just, it's something natural. If there's something that came natural to you and you'd have visitors or whatever. I don't know. It was never scary. And I don't really relate to the, some people have negative dark energy. I mean, it certainly can be out there. Personally, I haven't experienced that. The way that I experience spirit is really that it's just about love.
Now, as you know, there are people out there who pretend to be psychic mediums, but they're really just con artists out to take people's money.
Yeah.
But you've trained with some of the world's top mediums, including James Van Praagh and Tony Stockwell, and you've been tested and certified by some of the most credible and prestigious psychic organizations in the world, haven't you?
I have. I've been very blessed to be able to train with some of those amazing people and Lisa Williams and others. And yeah, I just think it's important, obviously, to have integrity in whatever you do. And, just like any other profession, there's going to be people that are taking advantage of others. So I don't think it's unique to us, but unfortunately it does exist. Yeah.
I understand you started out as a therapist.
I did. Well, I guess I've been a lot of things, but my previous career to this, yeah, I have my master's in social work, and I worked as a therapist with the chronically mentally ill and just in regular therapy, and I really enjoyed it. And so in some ways, this is sort of an offshoot of what I was doing before, because I feel like I was always using my intuitive skills to help people even without realizing it.
Do you think that your work as a therapist has helped you as a medium?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, and it's interesting, and I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, that not everybody that has this gift necessarily knows really how to work with people. And if you're talking about loved ones that have passed and sometimes tragic circumstances, you really want to be able to, you don't want to say, oh, I saw his dead body and there's blood everywhere. You obviously don't want to do that. And unfortunately, I think there are some mediums that do that because they just don't have that way of working with others. But I mean, just the fact that I've been able to work with people through therapy, there's ways you can approach things and then there's ways you don't.
Can you explain to us, Mari, what happens during one of your sessions?
Sure. Basically, I mean, with COVID, I've been doing a lot of remote sessions, as you can imagine. But depending upon whether we're remote or we're in person, it's very much the same. So I usually sort of explain how things work. Like for me, I'm very clairvoyant. So during a session, a lot of times I'll spend time looking over to my left side because that's where spirit is sort of dropping in messages, images, almost clips of little movies. So I see it, but I don't see it with my eyes. I see it sort of energetically. And that's how, for me, I mean, they also relay it in other ways, but I will be spending time sort of on this side of myself, taking in that information and then relaying it to the client.
Do they have to come to you with a question, or do they just come and say, I just want to know what you see?
Yeah, either way. I mean, I always say to them, because my goal is I'm here for you. If you're my client, I'm here for you. I want to do whatever is going to help you. Some people have a list. They say, I want to know blah, 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 blah. And we go down the list. Some people say, just connect and let me know what they're saying. So I'm here to serve my clients in whatever way they need. So I'm happy with either way.
Can you predict the future?
People always say that to me. They're like, well, why don't you get the lotto numbers? And, it's not something I've really tried. I mean, certainly if I'm having like a psychic session, which is more of like intuitive session, and someone will say, what does my job future look like in the next 6 months? I can definitely sort of tap into that. But in terms of like, oh, this will definitely happen. I mean, you can't really do that because there's always free will. Like maybe today they decide they want to be a baker, and then tomorrow they're like, no, I want to go on a road trip. So, it's nothing set in stone, I don't think. And so, it's really up to the client to sort of guide their own ship, as it were.
What about health? I would imagine people come to you and ask you about what's going to happen with their health.
Well, they do. And that's not really an area that I work with. There are people that are medical intuitives that really focus more on the body and things like that. So I don't work a lot with that. I mean, I can feel if I'm working with a past loved one, if I feel pressure in my chest or my leg, or, I can feel where things might have happened, but I'm not honestly educated enough to know all the systems of the body and all that type of thing to know if there's a blockage in your spleen or something. So that's not really what I focus on. And so usually I refer people have specific medical questions. I'll refer them to people I know that specifically work on that.
So if you receive bad news in a session, will you tell the client?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I haven't really received bad news. Like I can't remember a session where, I found out like, oh, someone's going to pass away. That's not really the information I'm getting. If I'm connecting with someone that's passed away, usually they'll give me memories of things that happened. So to sort of show the client, like, yes, I do have your grandfather, I do have your mother. So, in terms of animals, that animals might be passing. I mean, certainly I do work with animals that are missing. And sometimes I'll find out that they have already passed. And so clearly, I'll ask the client, look, I'm connecting with your animal. Do you want to know everything? And then I will try to sort of tell them in the gentlest way possible, because that's obviously hard.
So am I right when I'm getting the impression that most people who come to you want to connect with a departed loved one?
Well, it's about 50-50. I mean, some people in the circles of my mediumship friends, they call me the animal lady. So apparently I do a lot of work with animals, but I also do a lot of work with people. So it just depends on what the person's looking for. Sometimes we'll have a session and it's people and animals. I'll do half and half. So it just depends what they're looking for.
Can you tell us, Mari, what happens after we die?
Well, like I like to tell people, I'm not God, so I don't know everything. But my understanding is that, basically once we leave this world, there's multi-levels and multi-dimensions of things out there. So it's once we leave our body, which I like to say, this is just the outfit that we happen to be wearing while we're here. Once we leave it, we go to this other place. And whether you believe it's heaven or the other side or God, soul, spirit, it's really just a place where your soul can just be in peace and be with other souls. And my understanding is that after that, it's really just about love. There's no suffering, there's no pain. If you were a golfer here and you really like to golf, you can golf on the other side. You can sort of do whatever you want in an energetic form. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, does spirituality factor into what you do? I mean, are you a religious person?
I'm not a religious person. For me, it's just really about connecting with source, spirit, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not religious at all. It's really just connecting with the energy, whatever is beyond us. And I think it's hard for any of us to know exactly what that is. But there is energy and there is things after we die, clearly, since I'm able to connect to people and animals that have passed. I think it's just hard as humans. We're very limited to understand exactly what that is.
If someone wants to communicate with a departed loved one, can they try doing it on their own, or do you have to go to a medium?
No, absolutely. And what I tell people is, I'm not magical. Anybody can do this work. It's just a matter is if you wanted to be a bodybuilder, you would go to the gym and cut carbs and, do all that. So if you want to do this work, it's just really a matter of being able to get more centered within yourself and to get to that quiet place to be able to hear the things that spirit is sending you, because it's always around us. The messages are always around us. It's just whether we're able to receive them. And everybody has this ability. You definitely don't need to go see a medium for sure.
So when you meet someone, can you tell if they have a special gift like yours?
Usually I can feel whether somebody's like very intuitive. I mean, like I said, everybody's intuitive. If you're on the freeway and someone's staring at you and you get that feeling and you look at them and they're staring at you, how did you know that? It was your intuition. So everybody has this gift. And usually when I meet people, I can tell sort of how sensitive they are, if this is an area that they might be good in. But some people, they might have a talent and they might not want to do it. So I'm not somebody to push anybody into anything. Everybody has to make their own choices.
Can a departed loved one send signs or messages to their relatives who are left behind?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it happens all the time. And what I encourage my clients to do, and you can try this too, Harvey, or anybody else, is you can ask for a sign. You can say, hey, Joe, I'd really like to see a red cardinal today, or I'd really like to see, your initials or something. And give them some time, give them a couple days. But absolutely, spirit is always putting out messages. It can be repeating numbers, it can be coins, feathers, animals. Sometimes, they'll mess with the electricity in your house. I know in my house, they'll turn the lights on and off in one of my rooms. And, it's true. And I know people must say, oh, well, you're a medium. But no, it happens in lots of houses. And so if it's happening to you, you can always say, look, I'm trying to get some rest. Can we take it easy, please? And they'll usually cooperate. So
I've seen some mediums on TV that claim that they're connecting with departed celebrities like Marilyn Monroe or Elvis or Martin Luther King. What do you make of that?
Well, honestly, Harvey, I mean, for me personally, and again, everybody has to do, you do you. But for me, I think that would be hard to do unless you knew the celebrity. So, or say, the celebrity's daughter comes to you and wants to connect with their mom or whatever, then that would work. But I think usually when I'm connecting with people, it's because I have their loved one in front of me, or I have their furry human friend. So it's not like I can just randomly, okay, I want to bring in Elvis, and I know some mediums do that, and that if that works for them, that's good. Personally, I think you really need to have the loved one who's connected to that person sitting in front of you, because otherwise, where's the connection?
Yeah, oh, no, I totally get that. What about reincarnation? Do we come back after we've died?
I personally believe we do. I know not everybody does, but absolutely. I mean, and I've had clients that say, oh, I know, my dog now used to be my dad, or, and there's always those, absolutely. I mean, I personally believe you, because for me, soul is a soul, whether it's a person or an animal. To me, it's all the same. And I believe you can be, reincarnated into a dog or vice versa. And then that might be a little controversial, but we're just energy and we're just love. And again, this is just like the suit that we're wearing this time around. And absolutely, I believe we come around in our soul groups, souls that we've been with for many, many millennium, and we come and we go with those same souls over and over again. And it's to learn lessons. It's for our soul's growth and also to help others on this planet, I believe.
So do you mean that someone, let's say like Hitler, could he come back as a cockroach?
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, or he could come back as another person. And, obviously that's kind of a rough example in terms of the life he led, but I believe that we're all here to learn things and to grow. So yeah, absolutely. I think you could come back as a bug, as a snake, as an elephant.
I mean, the reason I asked you that was because I'm thinking of karma. Like if you did horrible things in your life, if you've done evil in this life, I've always hoped that if you do come back, it's to pay a price for what you did because of karma.
Absolutely. And I agree with that as well. I mean, I believe once we cross, there's a life review. So you're, in your soul form, and they kind of review everything you've did in your life. And a lot of times when I'm connecting with people on the other side, that's one of the things they tell me is their regret about, I'm sorry I did this, or I wish I had done that. And so the soul does really have sort of that moment of reckoning of, wow, this could have been better. So I'm hoping, in anyone's case that there's growth, because, and in terms of punishment, karma, there's certainly plenty of people on this earth that are living horrible, horrible lives. So you never know, who they were before to end up in that terrible place.
What about haunted places? Do you have clients that come to you and say, I think my home is haunted?
Certainly I do. And there are people, and I've done a few of them, that will do home clearings and sort of to, let the spirits know everything's cool. You don't need to be doing this. Because usually they're just playing tricks. They're just being like, hey, pay attention to me. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't really believe in the negative energy piece. But if there's energy left in the house from hauntings, people like to say, it's really more just like residual energy. I don't believe that, that souls can be trapped here. Like, I think it's a lot of hubris and chutzpah to think that they need us to help them to the other side. We're human. Why would they need us? So it's not a question to me of being trapped here. It's just more they might want to visit. They might want to sort of make themselves known, especially in, like a Lizzie Borden house or someplace where something really traumatic happened. They're just like saying, hey, we were here, our residual energy is here, and we want to sort of let you know what took place. There might be some unfinished business, but I don't believe that they're personally trapped there.
I'm fascinated by your comment that you don't believe in a negative energy, because I have to tell you, I have met people in the course of my life and career where I sensed enormous toxicity and negativity, and sometimes even evil in my work. And then other times there's a person that you don't know at all that you just meet, and you feel an instant like for them, even though you don't know them. You just feel a warmth towards them because you feel this kind of positive energy coming out of them.
Absolutely. And what I would say for the negative piece is that's the human, any evil that's done, somebody that's like a rotten, terrible person or is hurting people, that's the human. That's not the soul. And I tell my clients, like, we have a lot more to be afraid of here on earth than on the other side. In my experience, certainly I've met plenty of evil people that do terrible things and are horrible, but I don't believe that's their soul. Their soul, I believe, is pure and love, and it's just got covered in a lot of gunk and a lot of horrible things that probably happened to them. I imagine they were probably abused or molested, or, who knows? Nobody comes into this world a rotten person. It's just the pile up and the layers of the trauma that make them that way. So I agree with you. There's definitely evil, but that's the human side. That's not the soul.
So do you ever feel sometimes that the therapist part of you is seeping into your work when you see someone who has perhaps suffered in their youth and it's created bad behavior?
Absolutely. I mean, we are some of our parts, right? So, I mean, I think the people that come to see me are interested in having that, in a sense, not everybody, but some of them are interested in having that therapeutic experience. And, people say my energy is very calming. And so I think that's sort of part, if you're drawn to work with someone like me, that I have that knowledge. And so I'm able to combine that knowledge with the connection with spirit that not maybe necessarily all the mediums have. And so I'm lucky that I'm sort of able to use both.
So how do you take care of yourself, Mari? I mean, there's a lot of energy around the people that come to you, their departed loved ones. Some of them have experienced traumatic passings and other events in their lives. How do you keep yourself centered and healthy and, balanced?
Well, that's a good question. It's interesting. I don't know if I posted it yet, but I saw a picture online of somebody had posted, it was a skeleton with little cucumber patches on the eyes saying, this is me doing self-care. So the joke is that you don't get to it until you're already crossed over. So it's definitely a challenge because anybody that's a therapist or most people that I think do this work are givers. I want to help. I want to help people and do whatever that is. So when people say, oh, I need this or I need this. So I found in my work that it's really important to set boundaries. So even if I have someone call me up and say, oh my God, I need to talk to you tomorrow. And I would like to, the part of, the mom part of me also is like, oh, I want to help you. But I'm like, okay, I have this, and this I need to do. So you need to set boundaries. And especially this year with the COVID, I mean, taking care of yourself has to be the number one, even before taking care of others, like you put your own mask on the plane before your kids. It's really important because like you said, there is a lot of residual energy and gunk. And if you don't, it can really take you down fast.
Well, let's talk about pets now, Mari. How do you communicate with animals?
It's really the same way. I can't say that it's different. I sort of tune into them. And I guess the difference with that is a lot of times with pets, I work with pictures. And so I ask my clients to send me pictures of their animals. And then the pet will sort of make me feel how they're feeling, or I'll get a hit on sort of how their personality is, how they are with their human. They just sort of talk to me, I guess. But it's not like they're saying, hey, Mari, I love being here and I wish I had more treats. It's not like that. It's just feelings, images. I'll get sensations in my body. Sometimes I'll smell things, cat food or whatever. And that's sort of how they connect with me. So it's not that much different than working with people.
So what kind of things do animals say to their human companions?
It runs the gamut. I mean, sometimes it's just, I love you and I love being with you. A lot of times, with the therapy background, I guess coming into play is, if the animals had trauma and then they're bringing it into their current home, and the things that sort of result from that, like, oh, he's peeing outside the box or things like that. But I've had animals tell me, one cat was talking to me about his nails and what was being done to his nails. And I was like, because they'll just show me things and I don't necessarily know what they're talking about because I have to tell the story to a movie I've never seen. So they're showing me their fingernails and something different with their fingernails. And so I say to the client, so what is that about? And the grandmother basically said, oh yeah, my granddaughter comes over all the time and paints my cat's nails. So that was, I thought an interesting thing. And that was the animal was telling me. And then there was another, there's lots of stories, but the ones that are coming to mind, there was this German Shepherd. I was doing a gallery reading, and he came and he showed me, there was he showed me the ocean scene, and then there was a bottle with a message in it. And I'm thinking, it sounds kind of strange, like a dog with a message in a bottle. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And so it turns out when this dog had crossed, they had a memorial ceremony to say goodbye to him. And they put a message in a bottle and threw it out into the ocean. And that's what he was trying to tell me, like, thank you, Mom, for doing that. And I was there and I'm aware of that. And that was really beautiful.
When animals die, do they go through the same thing that people do?
Yeah, I mean, the life review, I haven't really seen that come up with the animals, but they do end up on the other side, or whatever you want to say, heaven, whatever people want to call it. And they are usually with their loved ones as well. So they're sort of all together because they have souls as well. But I personally believe that animals are sort of on a higher level than we are because, they don't do the horrible things to each other that humans do. And they are really here to help us grow and to help us be the highest version of ourselves. That's my belief about the animals. So I believe they're actually a little, on a little higher plane than we are.
So when I die, will I be reunited with all the pets I've had in my life?
Absolutely. That's when I do readings and I see the people, they're surrounded by their pets. I mean, of course, it's not static. And, I believe it's multidimensional, like spirit can be here, spirit can be, with your cousin Susie at the same time. It's not linear like it is on this earth. So spirit can sort of be everywhere. But yeah, absolutely. I believe you'll be reunited.
And I think you've already mentioned you have helped locate missing people and missing pets, correct?
Yes, I have. It's very, people say, well, how do you do it? And I'm like, I don't really know, but somehow the information comes to me and I'm able to help people get reunited with their animals or find, missing people.
Now, I want to say to our viewers that yesterday, Mari asked me to send photos of our two cats, and I did. And I'm just wondering, Mari, did you get any messages from Lucy and Mina?
Yes, well, I have their pictures here, and that's what I'm looking at. And Mina is the white one, correct? The
Yes.
more white one. Yeah, okay. And it was actually really interesting because I don't get songs a lot, but when I woke up this morning, I kept getting Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And then I realized that that was one of your cats. So that's probably connected to her, I would think. But I would like to start with Mina just because I feel like with her, I feel like she's very protective of you as well. But there's also like a lot of like, I don't know if it's fear or anxiety, but it's almost like, don't get too close with me. Don't get too close. That's sort of the feeling that she's giving me. And I feel like with her that she would take a long time to sort of learn to trust you or to trust other people. Does that make sense to you?
You're talking exactly about Lucy.
I am.
That is Lucy, 100%.
Okay. Because it was interesting because with Mina, because I was looking at her and it just was feeling like, that's where she was headed. But, maybe my GPS is off a little bit. So I just sort of was getting that feeling that it was just hard for her to let people near you, hard for her to trust. I don't know if there was trauma in her background as well. Like if you had rescued her from somewhere, because it was just sort of, don't get too close with you. So you understand that for Lucy, correct?
You have just described Lucy, who is a rescue cat,
Okay.
100%. She is aloof. She wants to be like in the same room and a little bit close to you, but she's not a cuddly, mushy cat.
Yeah, definitely not. But it's interesting because as I'm connecting to that, I feel like she is sensitive, Like I do feel a sensitivity within her, but I feel like it's almost covered by layers of it's too hard for me to let that out. So don't feel like that she doesn't care about you guys because I do feel there's a lot of gratitude for you, but she just, it's the ability to not want to get hurt again that's sort of keeping her separated. You understand that?
I do. And I so appreciate you saying that because it's incredible. You've described Lucy perfectly.
Well, I'm glad. Well, that's what she's making me feel, and I just again with her want to pass along her gratitude to you because she doesn't want you guys to feel that she's not grateful and that she doesn't appreciate everything that you've done for her, even though she's not really able to sort of reciprocate that kind of love. So just know that and know that that's sort of where she's coming from with that.
Okay, I forgive her for being so aloof.
Well, it's not only that, I just feel like had she, been able to be in a different environment when she was younger, she would have had a different personality. And so a lot of her personality is shaped by that environment. And, whether it's neglect or abuse, it doesn't feel like it was anything good. She would have been different. And so she just sort of wants you to know that. And so I'm back to Mina here. It's just interesting with those because she has those eyes that, that she looks at you with. She is very beautiful. She does have those big eyes. But when I'm connecting with her, I do still feel a little bit, whether it's like anxiety or just sort of wanting to know what's going on, just feeling like I have to know what's going on, my fingers in every pot. And in terms of their relationship, I feel like that she can sometimes be annoying to Lucy and that she's the one that sort of might cause the mischief in the house. Do you understand that piece?
I sure do. You're really quite incredible because Mina is a very anxious cat. She meows all the time. We don't know what's wrong, but she's got a lot of anxiety and she's very clingy.
Yeah. No, I can feel that. And I can feel like it's almost like when I connect to her, I feel like a tightness in my chest, like what's going to happen next? Like I'm on sort of like hyper alert, super alert of what's going to happen. So I could feel like thunderstorms or loud noises that would make me really freaked out. And, and I do feel for her, and I don't know, what your schedule is or anything, but anything you can do that would be soothing for her, whether it's playing classical music or, maybe darkening the house a little bit. It just feels like she needs like a serene environment. And obviously you don't need to turn your house into a spa, but that's sort of the energy that I'm getting from her, is that would sort of help her, turn the volume down a little bit, because that's sort of the energy that I'm getting from her.
Mari, you're just amazing. And I appreciate you doing that. You're so sweet. I want to ask you about your book, Heaven Sent, in which you are a contributing author. Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that experience of writing in that book.
It was really fun, actually. There's a lot of really great stories in there, and it's basically stories, amazing stories of animals that have helped us in different ways, whether they were living or crossed over, and just about the beauty and the support that animals provide people. And my experience working for the book was great. Working with the author that sort of got everything together was really wonderful. But it's a lot of work, writing a book or even a part of a book is a lot of work. So I was like, wow, I don't know if I want to take on a whole book, because it does take a really long time. But in terms of the stories, definitely, grab your tissues, because there's a lot of, tear jerkers in there, and it's really beautiful, really beautiful stories though.
Do you think you ever will write a book about your experiences?
Well, like I mentioned that because it's always been on my list, it's always been on my list. I have a lot of notes. I have a lot of, like partial chapters, and some chapters written on my computer, on paper, sort of all over the place. But it definitely will have to be in a time in my life when I have more time, because I have 3 kids. And so I'm trying to make everything work at the same time. But maybe when things slow down, it's definitely something I'd like to do.
So, Mari, how can people reach you if they want to book a session?
Well, the best way to get a hold of me is through my website, mediummari.com, mediummari.com. And you can also find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, all under the same name if you want to send me a message. But I have, live booking right on my website, and that's probably the best way to book a session.
Well, Mari, I must tell you, I found our conversation to be absolutely fascinating. I know there are skeptics out there, and frankly, I don't care. We all know what we know, and we don't have to justify it to anyone. And in my own life, I can tell you that I've been helped immensely by my mother, who died 5 years ago. So I happen to believe very strongly in your gift. And I thank you so much for coming on our show.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun, and sharing your furry friends with me. I always love that. And it's been a pleasure to chat with you. I'm so glad we got connected.
And I will be booking a session in the near future.
Okay. All right. I'd love to talk to you more at length. So thank you so much, Harvey. I really appreciate being on your show and reaching out, and it's really been great.
Well, I feel like I made a new friend.
Absolutely. I know. I don't know where you live, but yeah, we should get together for coffee.
Our guest has been psychic medium Mari Cartagenova. My name is Harvey Brownstone. Thank you to our producer, Steve Silver. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time.
Remember to subscribe to the Harvey Brownstone Interviews YouTube channel. And be sure to check out more great interviews with Harvey Brownstone on harveybrownstoneinterviews.com.